and welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a puzzle in which no Sudoku rules apply. And that is because it is not a Sudoku today. This is a pentominoes puzzle, and these are always popular on the channel, I think because the rule set is so simple, but also they often have some really clever logic. And this one has been, well, it's been praised to the rafters on our Discord server. It's by Steph. And it's meant to be reasonably challenging, so we shall see how difficult it is. You probably already know because you can see the length of the video, but do have a go at this. These puzzles are really, really fun. And yeah, anyway, I'll get to the rules in just a second. Before I do that, I need to say a huge thank you to Ken Ross, who, having heard about my PC issues, emailed overnight from America to offer to give me his spare computer. I mean, this is, it's an amazing and hugely generous thing to do. Ken, thank you very much for that. Luckily, I am led to believe that my new PC is arriving this afternoon. So this is very exciting and a huge relief to all involved. But so Ken, I hope I won't need your spare computer, but I am very, very grateful for the offer. Other than that, do subscribe. If you're not subscribed and you enjoy the content, please subscribe. We appreciate that. And with that, I will read you the rules. What we have to do in a pentominoes puzzle, and in fact, I'll bring up, did I find, yeah, here we go. These are the 12 different shapes that are relevant in a pentominoes puzzle. So basically, these are all the different ways that you can connect 5 cells orthogonally to each other, all the different ways if you allow for rotations and reflections. And what we have to do is divide the grid along the lines into pentominoes, i.e. 5-cell regions, so that no 2 pentominoes of the same shape, including rotations and reflections, share an edge. A cell with a letter in it must be part of the pentomino shape normally associated with that letter, and a pentomino may contain 0, 1 or more given letter clues. So what does that mean? It means that this P here has to be part of a P pentomino. A P pentomino looks like that, but of course it can be reflected. It could be like that, or it could be rotated. So it doesn't always have to be sort of this way up. It would be absolutely fine for it to look like that or like that. It just has to be part of a P pentomino. And what I'll try and remember to do is to put all the pentomino shapes on the side of the diagram in case you can't remember what they are. Luckily, I have done enough pentomino puzzles in my life that it would be appalling on my memory's behalf if it did forget what these are. So we need to do that. The only other rule we have to remember is that we can't connect to shapes of the same type to each other. So if we ended up doing that in the finished grid, this would be broken because this is a P pentomino connected to another P pentomino, and you mustn't do that. You can see these P pentominoes share an edge here. It's possible that they can connect at a point. That doesn't break the rules of the puzzle. So let's just deal with, make sure that we understand that. If instead of this we did that, that's absolutely fine, because these don't share an edge. So that's all the rules. Do have a go yourselves. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, how do we get cracking here? So the answer, I don't have a good way of getting cracking. I mean, there are some pentomino shapes that are more difficult than others. X is obviously quite tricky because, although here this X is perhaps not tricky because it could be in the sort of wings of the X, or it could be in the center of the X. We don't know. We can. Goodness, there are a lot of letters in this diagram. Sorry, what I'm trying to do is to just stare at this and pick off. W is often quite difficult, but the problem is these pentomino letters are not packed particularly closely. And even when they are close together, there's so much space on both sides. I mean, I mean, y could do that, for example, and that leaves all sorts of options for this z. It doesn't have to connect to its friend there. It could just go the other way. It could go that way. Right, 1 second. Sorry, I realise I'm not making progress with alacrity here. What on earth do you do to start this puzzle? What we'll find, I imagine, is that there is a place. The problem is it might only be one place where there is a weakness in the structure. And if I can't find it for ages, that will be irritating for you and irritating for me. Maybe the V. Yes, let's think about V. A V is always like this. This is the shape of the V, so we've got to fit this in somehow around here. Now, the interesting thing about that is if you think about it, there's always got to be a sort of horizontal element and a vertical element to the V. Now, that is interesting. Because, well, for example, that sort of thing is just going to break in. Actually, no, it doesn't break if it goes that way. But it breaks if the V comes down and has to turn in either of those orientations. No, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, actually. I thought this V was... No, I am wrong. My gut reaction was that the V would have to occupy 3 of these 4 squares here, but I'm not actually sure that's true. Oh, good Lord. I am so sorry. I am not understanding this at all. It's not some sort of global thing, is it? I haven't got to... So yeah, what I'm wondering is whether... Yeah, that actually it's not such a stupid thought. Because if you do stare at these letters, you can see it's quite hard to connect many of them to each other. I could connect those L's, I could connect those Z's. Not much else. Those I's could connect to each other. Let's try and actually map how many of these could connect to each other. Not seeing many. We could... No. N. Here, that could connect... Oh, the P could connect to each other as well. N's and P's. So that means the rest of these shapes, let's highlight those for just a moment. The rest of these shapes, I think, have to belong to their, you know, they can't have a friend that they join to. So each of these would have to represent their own 5 cells in the grid. I don't think there's enough of them for this to be interesting, but I will just check. Well, let me just check the sizes of the grid. I've got 5... 15, it looks square, doesn't it? 15 by 15, I better check, I'll bet paranoid. 15 by 15 it is, so it's 225 squares. Divide 225 by 5, 45. So there are 45 different pentominoes in this puzzle. Now let's see how many we've got here. We can get we could get 2 out of these eyes, but there's a minimum of 1. So where a square is purple, it counts for a minimum of 1 pentomino. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. 39. That's actually better than I thought I was going to get to. That's not that far from 45. So maybe we can do... So there's at least 39. Yeah, but that... Look at the central square of the grid. That cannot be reached by anything that is existing in the grid. There's none of these pentominoes is large enough to get to it. So that means that gets us to 40. Oh yeah, this is it. This is going to be it. Look, this is really interesting because if we look at the top right-hand square of the grid, that can't be reached by anything either. The L can't get to it because of its shape. If the L had been a Z, it could have got here, but it can't because it's an L. The I's can't reach. So that's 41. Let's check this corner. Yeah. 42. So actually, I better mark these off. Those three squares have to be part of pentominoes that are not lettered squares in the grid. So that got us to 42, didn't it? I need 3 more. This one. That one's good as well. Nothing can get to that. That P cannot reach it. 43. Ah, the Z can get there. Oh, bobbins, that's annoying. Yeah, okay. It is true the Z can get there, but what if the Z does get there, it can't also be part of this Z. So I only counted these Zs as 1 in my count, but actually these Zs count as 2 on the basis they either... If they join together, then this square is a new pentomino, which can't be reached by anything in the grid, or they are separate, in which case they count for 2. So that square is sort of a quasi new square, but it gives us an extra count of 1 and gets us to 44. I need 1 more. So I can't... N's and P's maybe... Oh, it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful idea. Hang on. I think I'm... Yeah, yes. At the moment, I've counted the N's and the P's as 2 pentominoes. But if the P's connect to each other, the N's can't connect to each other. And if the N's connect to each other, the only way they could do that is separating the P's. So these 4 squares, which I've counted as 2 pentominoes, should count as at least 3 pentominoes, and that gets us to 45, and I can't... In fact, they must therefore be 3 pentominoes. They can't be 4 pentominoes, because that will take the count to over 225. So we have a start here. Believe it or not, we have a start, although there is nothing drawn in the grid, really. We have identified that every single uncoloured letter is part of its own pentomino. The I's I only counted as 1, so they must be connected to each other. That is a pentomino. I don't need any more pentominoes now. The internal logic of the puzzle has given me 45 discrete pentominoes. The L's must connect to each other. The Z's might not. Okay, so now we've just got to spot how we can use this logic to our advantage. It's probably going to be these L's. Let me just have a stare at the rest of this. Let me just think about this for a second. I'm still not sure exactly where I should be looking, to be honest. I mean, it's very interesting to know that this is part of its own pentomino, but you can see there's so much space around it. There's no way of knowing what pentomino it is. And similarly with the corners, I'm not exactly sure that I can do much with that. So let's think about these L's then. What's this telling us? This is telling us that it's telling us it either looks like that, that's one orientation, where it's sort of a backward R, or it's looking like that, and it looks more naturally like an L. That squares. Ah, yeah, okay. Let's look at that. If this was correct, how would you fill that square with a pentomino? That is impossible. That is impossible. You cannot put anything into here that is legal, because which pentomino are we going to connect this to? It can't connect to I because I can't bend, and it can't connect to this. The only way those two squares are connected is if they are in an L pentomino, and that will connect an L to an L. So we actually do know what this L is, I think. I think this L has to be, well, I think it's got to be that way round. And that gives us another pentomino. So now this I is, oh, this I is now boxed in on its left side, so it must go up one. Although that's now, I now think I've given myself a problem in the top right, because I've got to fill a lot of real estate here with not many pentominoes available. Not much can get into this top region of the grid. If I just highlight that, let's just think about what pentominoes can reach this black region. I can reach one of the cells. The pentomino that's in the corner can deal with 4 of the black squares. 1, 2, 3. So we could get 1 with I, 4 with this one, and then we've got to get 2 squares of it with other pentominoes. But V can't reach, F can't reach, Z can, Z could take 2, or P takes 2. But P, my natural reaction when I saw this space is that if I push P into here, it feels to me like it's going to make another P. That might not be correct, but that's what it looks to me like. So maybe if Z doesn't come in here, then 2 of the black squares at least have to be made up of P. Yeah, that breaks. It breaks. Because there's no way of taking just 2 of these black squares with P without you taking those 2 squares. You can't take those 2 with P on its own, because if you do, let's try this for a second, this top left square would have there would be no pentomino that could reach it, this white square here. So if you take if you have to take two of these squares, you have to take those two at least. And if you have to take those two at least, what pentomino are we drawing coming out of here, given that we have to, it's impossible. You're going to have to make this a P, however you draw it. It has to be a P. Because if you try and do anything else, if you try and do a Y, for example, nothing can get to these squares here. And if you try and do it with a P like that, for example, you can see that that's just going to have to connect. This will have to be a P to get to this square. So I don't think, and hopefully the comments will tell me if I've got this wrong, I do not think it is possible for this. I actually don't think it's possible for this P to take any squares out of these black squares, because I think the moment it does, the only way you can fill the other black squares legitimately is with another P. So I think the Z has to take two of these black squares, and therefore it would have to look like that. Oh dear, let me get rid of that. And now, yeah, now it's beautiful. Now it is beautiful, because that square cannot be part of the P, because you couldn't get the P out. So this square must be part of this red corner. So all of those squares are red. And this square can't be part of the eye, so that square's red. And therefore this square, nothing has reached, so the only thing that can reach that square is the eye, so that goes in. The P is forced, lovely. Okay, and we have a bit of a start here, don't we? Now, can we keep it going? That square needs to be part of a pentomino. It can't be part of a V, so that's got to be part of a Y. And the Y needs to have a sticky out bit, and that sticky out bit will have to be there. So that's filled in. That forces the V, does it? Yes, the V can't turn up, so the V must turn down. We'll make that purple. I'm not sure about that immediately, but I can see this square has to join to the F. So there's only one way that this F can go. The F will have to do that. It's forced. One way to think about Fs are they always have a sort of three cell stem from which one cell will have to extend on the right and one will have to extend on the left. So once you get this sort of thing happening, you can clearly see the stem can't go horizontally, so this is going to have to be the stem, and then there's only one way we can fit the sort of wings around that stem. That square must be difficult, surely. That cannot be reached by N. No, okay, look, oh, actually we're going to get the Y as well, because the only thing that can touch this square is the Y, so we can fill in the Y, but now we ask the question, where does the wing of the Y go? It's either here, that isolates a cell, or here. That's got to be correct. So now this has to be part of the N. So that's forced that. We'll make that green. This has to be part of the W. The W can't turn right because it'll go off the grid. So the W must come down that way. This square could be P. Oh no, it can't. This square can't be P, because if it's a P, it has to do that, and the L now can't take four squares, and L always has a four cell stem like that one. So this square must be L and must be that way inclined. P. Not sure about that P yet. Let's come back over here. Ah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful again. Remember, every cell in the puzzle must be connected to either a labelled letter or one of these sort of unlisted letters that we've identified. Well, this square can't be part of T, so the only thing that can get to this square is the thing that goes into the corner as well. Well, that has to be an I. These are 5 cells apart. So we get this. Now this must be part of the T because it can't be part of the N. So those 3 squares are all part of the T, and therefore the T is determined. The T looks like that. We'll make that blue. Oh, I had a horrible moment there where I thought I'd broken the puzzle, because I saw this I and I thought, oh no, that's going to connect an I to an I, and it would, but we don't have to, because this beautiful N here can actually take those squares. We could do it that way, but that would isolate a square. So those squares must be in the N. That fixes the I, and we haven't broken the puzzle yet. Now what have we got? We've got P's and... oh, this P must be very impossible. The P... ah, okay. So a P always has a 2x2 region and then a sticky out cell. Now here you can see it's not possible this is the sticky out cell because we can't connect it to a 2x2 region without interfering with the F. So that's got to be the 2x2 region. But what that means is we haven't got a Scooby-Doo where the sticky out piece goes. Now, yeah, okay, and we can do the same with this P actually, because although at first blush it looks like this could be the sticky out bit of the P, the only way it could be the sticky out bit of the P is if the P looked like that, and this square here would not be part of a pentomino. So in fact that is also, in fact I'm going to make that black, because now look at this. We've got a black P here and a black P here. What's that square? Well, it cannot be a P, or the P's will connect to one another. So it must be part of its friend the W, as that W sort of comes in there. Now if that W goes down, the F looks like it's broken to me. Is it broken? The P would have to come down, and yes, the F is broken. Let me just show you that. If the W turns down, the P now has to take that square, and this F, you can't make an F here anymore. You could make a Z, but not an F. So that's not right, and that's lovely, because that means the W must turn up and look like this. This square now... this square's got to be part of that, hasn't it? Is it part of the central... because I'm just seeing the P can't reach it. Oh no, look, sorry, that's wrong. This... oh, God, goodness. This P here needs an extra square, so that's that square. And this square is still problematic, though. The P can't reach that one either. So this has to be part of red, I think. So this is part of this pentomino that hits the middle cell of the grid, which I think is that one. But we don't know what it is. Okay. So do we do this one now? That could be the F. Or indeed that could be the F. And that looks like it might work quite nicely with a P. Sorry, right, I'm stuck again now. Let me just take a stare. Is there an easy way to keep making maybe this square instead? What's that square? Oh, that square could be P though. So we've got P. This black P now has 2 options for its wing. And then we've got to get F in around it. F could do that, maybe? Then this square would be... oh no, that square could be L. Oh, you can't put F like that. That's too snug with the P. The P hasn't reached its sort of full maturity yet. So we mustn't do that with the F. So if that was in... oh... Yeah, that feels problematic for that one to be in, because this F, I think, is going to isolate a square, but I can't be sure about that. Maybe I can do it with the L instead. Well, that square, we've got, if that square, okay, this square here could be part of the Y, or it could be part of the L. So, if this L goes vertical, surely that's broken. I can't see for the life of me how I'm going to make an F in here work. But let me just have a look at this. So if that was the P, there's just no way. You can't even put the F in, let alone not isolate a cell. If that's, yeah, it doesn't work. If this is the P, the problem with the F, it's what we talked about earlier. The F always has to have a 3-cell stem with one cell to the right and one cell to the left. Well, here you can see if this L is vertical, the 3-cell stem of this F has only 2 options now. It's either going to be, you know, something like this or that, or it's going to be here. Now, if it's here, you can put the F in, but the P hasn't got a 5th cell, so that doesn't work at all. So you're going to have to do this, but to pick up the F now, we need to have either this square or this square as an F. Neither of those work. Or you have to do that and take that, and that doesn't work either. So the L actually cannot reach this square. And therefore, what does reach this square? Only the Y. So the Y must extend that way. In fact, the Y is fixed. Good Lord. Okay. Because the Y's wing cannot be on top of an N. So that square's in. And now, have we finished the puzzle? I mean, I know we haven't finished the puzzle, but have we? So the L now, the stem of the L can't be vertical at all because it's only got 3 cells. So it's either horizontal in this row, which will be row 13, sort of have to take those 3 squares and one more, or it's horizontal here in row 14. That one's really nice though, isn't it? Because that one allows me to place the F around a P that extends to here. I really like this, so I've got to disprove the other. Now, can we do that? 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Yes, you can. So, if the L is going horizontal in this row, we have to fill these 4 cells with something, with pentominoes, preferably. So how are we going to do that? It's quite difficult to do. We can take one of these squares with the L by doing that. So one of them can be an L, one of them can be a P, if we do that with the P, and 2 of them can be the F in theory, but not in practice. Because if we do have this set up here, how are we going to fit this F in? We've got to take these 2 squares with the F. That's the only pentomino that can reach these 2 squares. And we have to take that square with the F. So these 3 squares all have to be F. Well, how are we going to continue this F in any way that makes any sense? It's not possible to do it. So this is wrong. Wrogn, I should say. Well, where did my Y thing go? That goes in. So this L does have to have its long 4-cell section in row 14, and therefore the L does this. Therefore I can make that purple without upsetting any apple carts. This becomes the last cell of the black P. The F then has one option, which is to do that. The Z, beautiful. There's something interesting about Zs. Let's look at a blank area and take a look at a Z. So that is a Z pentomino. Now, if you know either this square or this square of a Z pentomino, you can see, if you think about it, the Z pentomino occupies a 3 by 3 region. And if you know one side of the Z, you know the opposite end of that 3 by 3 square must contain the other end of the Z. So, look at this square. Let's get rid of this, sorry. This square is sort of in a corner, so it must be one end of the Z. It's not, for example, this square of the Z, is it? It can't be the middle square of the Z. So it's one end of the Z. So its counterpart is either there, well that's impossible, or here. So it must be here, and the Z must look like that. Which looks like it's interfering with my N. It is interfering with my N, and that's great news. To have your N interfered with is marvellous, because now, if you can't connect those, these N's must be separate pentominoes, and the P's must connect, because we know we can't make 4 pentominoes out of these. We had to make 3, so the P's connect. There's only one way to do that, surely, and that's like that. So let's colour that. Our P's have been black, so we'll keep P's being black. The N has to do that, I think. I can't see another way of doing that. This N, don't know about yet. Now we've got this corner one to deal with. Actually, I might have given myself a problem here if I made a mistake, because this, I mustn't touch Y or I in whatever I put here, and I can't have a P because that's going to connect to my black P there. Is Y going to work? I can't see. I think Y might work. I can't see another pentomino that will work. I can't put I in. That'll connect to this I. I can't put L in without isolating cells. I can't isolate cells. And if this square here is part of the L, that forces this to be an I. So I have to take that square. N will connect to another N. And that won't work. Right, this is, I think, a Y. Therefore, this must be L, which means L has to do that. I now has to go vertical. This square must be part of N. We mustn't isolate a square, so the N must run along and do this. This square. Oh, good grief. Right, this is part of a V. This square here, I was just noticing, can't be part of the P. It can't be part of any other lettered cell in the grid. So what can it reach? Only this region here that we'd started to draw from the middle of the cell. So that is a pentomino. And I need to get the colour of it correct so it doesn't clash. I think I can use, I'll use green. I think that's okay. Those greens are just touching at a point. So there's a V there as one of the hidden pentominoes. Now if that's a P... Yeah, okay. This square can't be part of a P because you'd have to draw the P like this, and this square would have no valid option. Nothing can reach it. Remember, everything here has to fill all of the white space. The only doubt, I think, is what's going on in the top left corner. Everything else is sort of overt now, so that means this has to be part of the F, which means that that's forced. Oh no, it could, no, that's not going to work because that isolates the P. So the only F I think you can draw is that one. This is where I make a bad logical error and get castigated. I think that's right. So now the P, that can't be the wing of the P, so it must be part of the 2 by 2 of the P. So those squares are all P. And what on earth do you do with the X now? This X must run vertically like that. There's no other way of fitting it in. So this is forced. And this is all getting terribly cramped now. So this can't be part of the T, or you can't draw it. So that must be the wing of the black P. I can see I can draw a T like that now. This is really horrible because it could all fall apart. Now the L has to do that, I think. This P, I think it can be drawn like that and only like that. This Y can still be... Oh! It can still be drawn and it's separated. Look at that. It's separated the Zs. So these Zs... So this square must be part of the corner. And that's gorgeous because that means... we have to... Yeah, it works as well. Ah, yes, it does work. The L is going to reach. This is absolutely amazing. So the Z just picks off this square, leaves this square, which we have to connect to a listed pentomino, but the L reaches it. And now... So is this 20... Oh no, this... I was thinking this looks like more than 20 squares, but that's because of this Z here. Now, using our trick about the opposite sides of a 3x3 square, you can see this can't be the other end of the square because we just can't draw a Z like that. We'll go through the X. So we must go up to that square, which is annoying because both of those are purple. So I need to pick a different colour. I'll use... maybe I'll use grey. So now that's got to be part of the U. So the U is going to have to do that, look, which is rather nice. And it looks good actually, doesn't it? That looks like it's right. Now, what on earth can get down there? Only the P. So the P must do this. Oh, I'm having a bit of trouble drawing it in, but I think it's going to do that. I can make that blue. W will go, yeah, W will go like that, and F will fit in the gap, and there's no other way to draw that W without isolating squares. That is just a gorgeous puzzle. It really is. So that does that, and then we fit the F in there. We can make the F. I've somehow managed to completely mess the colours up. I'll use black for the last F. And that, I think, is the correct solution. Loved it. Absolutely brilliant. That is not an easy pentominoes either. Although I'll probably get a whole load of comments saying how easy it was. But I don't think it is. I think, well, I'll be very surprised if there is any way of making progress without doing a count of the lettered squares. And even once you've got the count of the lettered squares, it wasn't trivial from there. I mean, it was quite obvious I had to use the L's. But even then it was quite sticky to work out the P thing in this corner. But then I got away, and after that it was smoother sailing. So I hope you enjoyed watching me battle through that. Steph, thank you very much for the puzzle. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks for the recommendation to those who sent it in, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.